The trading post on Kepler 442 hummed with the usual cacophony of interstellar commerce. Maya stood behind her stall, her violet skin gleaming under the artificial lighting as she arranged her wares, crystalline data cores from the Andromeda sector. She had been a merchant for 12 cycles now, ever since her homeworld of Thesha Prime had opened diplomatic channels with the Galactic Consortium. The post itself was a marvel of engineering, a biodome spanning 3 square kilometers, atmosphere processors working overtime to accommodate the 73 different species that frequented this particular hub. Methane breathers had their own sealed sections, while silicon-based life forms occupied the high-temperature zones. But here, in the oxygen-nitrogen commons, business thrived. Maya's compound eyes caught movement near the entrance. A human walked in, one of the legendary Terrans she had heard so much about but never encountered. He wore the distinctive uniform of the United States Marine Corps, his name tag reading CPL, William Chen. The human military designation meant little to her, but she recognized the bearing of a warrior when she saw one. William moved through the crowd with practiced ease, his enhanced combat neural implant cataloging threats and exits automatically. The implant was standard issue for Marines operating in xenodiplomatic zones, a piece of wetware that bridged the gap between human reaction times and the often superior reflexes of alien species. Not that he expected trouble. This was supposed to be a milk run. Pick up the classified data package from the Consortium Intelligence Liaison. Return to the USS Valiant in orbit, mission complete. The Marine's path took him past Maya's stall. She offered a polite greeting in Galactic Standard, which his translator chip rendered instantly into English. William nodded courteously and continued on his way. That's when Kraxon entered the trading post. The Velrathi commander was 7 feet of scaled muscle and predatory instinct, his species having only recently been admitted to the consortium after 3 centuries of aggressive expansion. The Velrathi were apex predators on their homeworld, a fact they never let anyone forget. Kraxon's ceremonial battle armor clinked as he moved, each piece inscribed with kill markings from campaigns across a dozen systems. Maya felt her secondary heart skip when she saw him. The Velrathi had a reputation for violence, barely contained by consortium law. She had heard stories of their treatment of lesser species, which, in their view, meant everyone except themselves. Kraxon's predatory gaze swept the commons and locked onto William. The human was smaller, frailer-looking compared to the Velrathi's imposing frame, an easy target for establishing dominance. William was examining a holographic star chart when he felt the ground vibrate. He turned to find Kraxon standing uncomfortably close, invading his personal space with obvious intent. The Marine's implant immediately began feeding him tactical data, threat assessment, vulnerable points, environmental variables. "Human," Kraxon growled, his translator rendering his words into English with a guttural undertone. "You dare walk these halls as if you belong among true warriors." William's expression remained neutral. "Just here on business, friend. Don't want any trouble." The diplomatic response was standard protocol for Marines in xenodiplomatic zones. The United States government had spent considerable political capital securing humanity's position in the consortium. Starting an interstellar incident over wounded pride wasn't on anyone's agenda. But Kraxon wasn't interested in diplomacy. "Your species is weak," the Velrathi commander continued, circling William like a predator assessing prey. "Soft. You have no claws, no natural armor, no venom. You are prey animals who stumbled into the stars." A crowd was gathering now. Maya watched with growing concern, her translator picking up the exchange. She had heard about human military prowess, rumors of their savage effectiveness in combat, their unwillingness to surrender, their disturbing creativity when it came to warfare. But looking at William's relatively small frame compared to Kraxon's bulk, she found those stories hard to believe. William's jaw tightened imperceptibly. His implant was now running combat scenarios, calculating response times, mapping the trading post's layout for optimal engagement vectors. But he kept his voice level. "I'm going to walk away now. Like I said, don't want trouble." He turned to leave. Craxton's clawed hand shot out and struck William across the face, a contemptuous slap that sent the Marine stumbling sideways. The crack of impact echoed through the suddenly silent commons. "You walk away when I dismiss you, prey animal," Craxton snarled. "Not before." Maya gasped. Around the trading post, various species reacted with shock, amusement, or studied indifference depending on their cultural backgrounds. But those who knew humans truly knew them, recognized the change that came over William Chen's face. The Marine slowly straightened, touching his split lip with one finger. He looked at the blood there for a moment, then raised his eyes to meet Craxton's gaze. The human's expression was utterly calm, the kind of calm that comes before catastrophic violence. "That was a mistake," William said quietly. His combat implant synchronized with his adrenal system, flooding his muscles with performance enhancers while sharpening his neural pathways to combat-optimal levels. Time seemed to slow from his perspective, a well-documented effect of the Marine Corps wetware during combat activation. Craxton laughed, a harsh barking sound. "What will you do, human? You have no—" He never finished the sentence. William's hand moved in a blur, fingers forming a spear point that drove into Craxton's throat with surgical precision. The strike targeted the Velratha's primary air passage, one of the 17 critical vulnerabilities the Marine's implant had identified in the first microsecond of threat assessment. Craxton's eyes widened in shock as his airway collapsed. He staggered backward, claws reaching for his throat. 1 second. William's leg swept low, hooking behind Craxton's knee with devastating efficiency. The massive Velrathi crashed to the ground, his armor clanging against the deck plating. 2 seconds. The Marine was on him instantly, knee driving into Craxton's chest while his hand locked around the alien's throat. With his enhanced strength and the leverage of his position, William compressed the Velratha's secondary circulatory nexus, another critical vulnerability. Craxton thrashed, his superior strength suddenly meaningless against the human's combination of technique, augmentation, and sheer tactical efficiency. His claws raked against William's armor, finding no purchase on the composite plating. 3 seconds. It was over. Craxton's body went limp as catastrophic circulatory failure shut down his neural functions. William held the position for 2 more seconds, ensuring the threat was neutralized, then stood up smoothly. His breathing was barely elevated. The trading post was absolutely silent. Maya stared in disbelief, her violet skin paling to lavender. Around the commons, dozens of species stood frozen, trying to process what they had just witnessed. A human, small, supposedly weak, had killed a Velrathi warrior commander in hand-to-hand combat in less time than it took most species to process a threat. William tapped his wrist communicator. "Chen to Valiant, requesting immediate diplomatic support and medical examiner at Trading Post 7. There's been an incident." The voice that crackled back was crisp and professional. "Copy that, Corporal, team inbound, sit rep." Velrathi commander initiated hostile contact, threat neutralized, no other casualties. Understood, consortium security has been notified. William deactivated his combat implant, feeling his metabolism return to normal levels. The adrenaline would take a few minutes to clear, but his hands were already steady. He looked around the silent commons, making eye contact with several species. "For the record," he said loudly, his translator broadcasting in galactic standard, "I gave him the chance to walk away. Marine Corps doesn't start fights, but we sure as hell finish them." Maya found her voice. "That was incredible. The stories about human combat capability, I thought they were exaggerated." William turned to her, and she saw something in his eyes that made her secondary hearts race. Not fear, exactly, but a deep understanding of what humans truly were. They weren't the biggest or strongest or fastest species, but they had refined the art of killing to a level that bordered on supernatural. "We're not the toughest species out there," William said quietly. "Not the strongest or the meanest, but we've been fighting and surviving for our entire evolutionary history. We learned to hunt animals 10 times our size with nothing but rocks and sharp sticks. We've fought each other in wars that spanned continents and claimed millions of lives. Combat isn't something we do, it's something we are." He looked down at Craxon's body. "Your friend there made a fundamental miscalculation. He thought that because we don't have claws or natural armor, we're weak. But humans don't need evolution to make us dangerous. We have something better: technology, training, and the absolute unwillingness to accept defeat." Consortium security arrived moments later, a mixed-species team that immediately began securing the scene. The lead investigator, a Thaline with crystalline sensory arrays, scanned Craxon's body and reviewed the security footage from multiple angles. "Clear case of self-defense," the investigator announced after 3 minutes of analysis. "The Velrathi initiated unprovoked hostile contact. The human responded with proportional force." "Proportional," someone in the crowd muttered. "He killed him in 3 seconds." The Thaline investigator's crystalline arrays flickered with what might have been amusement. "Exactly. Proportional. Had the human wished to cause suffering, the engagement could have lasted considerably longer." Maya shuddered at that implication. Within the hour, the incident had spread across the Galactic Consortium's data networks. Video footage of the engagement was analyzed frame by military tacticians from 100 worlds. The conclusion was universal: humanity's combat effectiveness had been grossly underestimated. The Velrathi High Command issued a formal apology to the United States and the Consortium, quietly shelving their plans for territorial expansion into human-adjacent sectors. Other aggressive species in the Consortium suddenly found reasons to be more diplomatic in their interactions with Terran representatives. As for William, he collected his classified data package and returned to the Valiant without further incident. The whole affair went into his service record as a footnote: diplomatic incident, resolved favorably. But for Maya and the thousands of beings who witnessed what happened that day, the lesson was clear. Humans might not look like apex predators, but appearances could be deceiving. They had clawed their way to the top of their world's food chain through intelligence, adaptability, and an almost frightening capacity for violence when necessary. The Velrathi had learned that lesson the hard way. And the rest of the galaxy took note.